Diaz sifting it through here for Saibari! What a finish!
Morocco dominant early on, really dominant actually, and then got a deserved goal.
What this Brazil side is, you know, they are defensively going to try and be solid. They're robust, but it doesn't necessarily have the flair that we've seen in Brazilian teams in the past. But I think in some ways, for me personally, as the game wore on, it became a little bit disappointing.
Brazil may have just made the mistake that might destroy their World Cup. Think about what we witnessed against Morocco for a second. A team chasing a record 6th World Cup. A squad filled with stars. Vinicius Jr. rescuing Brazil after Ismail Saibari's opener.
Space that Vinicius finds, he picks it up, and Jr. scores!
Yet after 90 minutes, the biggest talking point wasn't the result. It was the number 9 position. João Pedro, Chelsea's player of the season and a 20-goal forward, was left at home. Neymar was unavailable through injury. Igor Thiago struggled to impose himself against Morocco's compact defense. Endrick, the teenager who scored against Egypt just days before the tournament, never left the bench. And by the end of the match, Brazil looked so short of answers that Rafinha was being used centrally in search of a solution. That is what makes this so fascinating. Because Brazil still have Vinicius, they still have Rafinha, they still have Bruno Guimaraes, Casemiro, Gabriel, and Marquinhos. They still look like contenders, but Morocco may have exposed a problem much bigger than one draw. A problem that could decide whether Brazil wins a 6th World Cup or watches another golden generation fall short. And the deeper we investigate Brazil's number 9 situation, the more difficult one question becomes to ignore. Did Brazil leave the wrong striker at home? This is why Brazil's biggest World Cup threat might not be France, Argentina, or Spain, but a mistake of their own making. Brazil didn't lose to Morocco, but they left that match carrying something worse than a defeat, a question they couldn't answer. All the pace of Vinicius Jr., the deliveries of Lucas Paquetá and Rafinha, plus Matheus Cunha coming on in the second half, Bruno Guimaraes was pulling the strings, and Fabinho came on after the break to hold the base. Yet Brazil still spent large portions of that 1-1 draw looking like a team missing its spine. Morocco had a plan, and they executed it cold. Compact shape, closed off central lanes, pressed at the right moments, and the second they won the ball back, they went. Their goal in the 21st minute said everything. One direct move, Brahim Diaz finding the pocket, Saibari finishing cleanly. Just like that, Brazil were chasing a game they were supposed to be running. Vinicius got the equalizer 11 minutes later, and fair enough, that's what he does. But the goal didn't fix the actual problem. Brazil had the ball, they had territory, they had enough individual quality to make Morocco's backline nervous, but too many attacks just died. The ball went wide, came inside, went backwards, and fizzled out in areas where Brazil desperately needed someone to do something with it. That's where the number 9 conversation starts. When Brazil needed a forward to hold the ball under pressure, link midfield to attack, and give Vinicius and Rafinha something to work off, it wasn't there. Igor Thiago wasn't selected because he's a bad player. He has the physicals, the movement, the aerial presence. His club season showed enough for Ancelotti to back him, but a World Cup is not a pre-season tour. At club level, a striker gets months to settle into a system. At a World Cup, you get 3 group games before every mistake gets magnified by 10 million. Against Morocco, Thiago looked like a forward still working out what the game needed from him, while the game was already moving on without him. He didn't impose himself technically. He didn't consistently bring others in. He didn't give Brazil the kind of sharp wall pass, subtle movement, or central link that turns possession into actual pressure. And the problem wasn't that he missed chances. The problem was that didn't look significantly more dangerous because he was on the pitch. That's the real issue. Brazil's attack is already full of runners. Vinicius wants space in behind. Rafinha wants combinations. Cunha and Luis Henrique can go at defenders. What they needed against Morocco wasn't another body in the box. They needed a striker who could connect everything, drop between the lines, slow things down, combine quickly, then still arrive with a goal threat. That's exactly the gap João Pedro was supposed to fill, and his absence became very hard to ignore. This isn't about pretending João Pedro is Benzema. It's about profile. Brazil needed that type, the forward who can play with his back to goal, draw offenders, and make the wide players more dangerous without needing to be the one who always finishes. After a difficult season at Chelsea, João Pedro still managed 20 goals across all competitions and won the club's Player of the Season award. That's not a small detail. That's a player producing even when the environment around him isn't perfect. And that's the profile Brazil lacked against Morocco. How many times did they need a forward to drop short and pull the center-backs out of shape? How many times did Vinicius receive the ball with two men around him and no clean pass to bounce off? How many times did Rafinha look ready to combine, only for the move to lose its timing completely? This is why the Morocco game felt bigger than just a draw. It exposed a selection issue, a tactical issue, and a tournament-level concern at the same time. Thiago may still score in this competition. He may still prove the doubters wrong, but the question was never about whether he could finish. The question is whether Brazil can actually win a World Cup as his primary reference point up front, because one disconnected attacking performance in the group stage is a warning. One disconnected attacking performance in a knockout game sends you home. The strangest part of Brazil's draw with Morocco wasn't Igor Thiago starting. It was Endrick never getting off the bench. When your center forward isn't connecting attacks, your wide players are doing everything alone, and the game is slipping away from you, you look to your bench. Brazil had one of the most explosive young attackers in world football sitting there in a tracksuit untouched. Make that make sense. Endrick is 19, left-footed, and his lone spell at Lyon gave him some Real Madrid couldn't offer every clear's throat, weak actual game time. In League One, he put up 5 goals and 7 assists in 1,222 minutes, operating more as a right-sided forward than a fixed 9. That detail matters. His development hasn't been about becoming a static striker waiting for crosses. It's been about attacking space, combining from wider areas and arriving centrally at pace, which is exactly what Brazil were missing against Morocco. Thiago gives you size, physicality, work rate, and a presence in the box. Fair enough, but Endrick gives defenders a completely different problem. He runs beyond the line. He attacks the blind side of center backs. He receives on the half-turn, drives inside, shoots early. One loose step and he's already gone, and defenders know it. Brazil had already seen this before the tournament. Against Egypt on June 6th, their final World Cup warm-up, Endrick came off the bench and scored the winner in a 2-1 victory. Not just the goal, the type of threat, sharp, direct, decisive. In tight knockout football, that profile is worth more than reputation. The point isn't that Endrick needs to be perfect. The point is that he changes the rhythm of games. Against Morocco, Brazil's attack became predictable. Vinicius carried threat from the left, Rafinha looked for pockets, Cunha and Luis Henrique offered movement, but the center of the attack never consistently stretched Morocco or made them genuinely nervous. Endrick brings uncertainty. He can drag a center-back 5 wide deeper just by his positioning. He opens space for Vinicius by threatening the channel. He can turn one direct pass into a chance before the opposition's shape is even set. So why he didn't get on is a genuine question. Then there's the Neymar factor. Normally, Neymar papers over a lot of cracks in Brazil's attack. Even without scoring, he controls tempo, draws fouls, pulls markers, and finds passes that most forwards don't even see as options. But against Morocco, he was out, calf injury, and that shifted the entire weight of responsibility in Brazil's final third. Without him, the striker has to do far more than just occupy defenders. He has to link play, create space, threaten in behind, and help turn possession into actual chances. That's not a center forward's job description. That's asking one player to do the work of two, which is exactly why the João Pedro and Endrick debate are bigger than normal squad selection noise. João Pedro offers connection, Endrick offers disruption. Against Morocco, Brazil needed at least one of those qualities. They got neither. Brazil are still contenders. One draw doesn't change that, but World Cups aren't decided by the obvious mistakes. They're decided by the small ones no one fixed when there was still time. If Ancelotti doesn't solve this number 9 problem quickly, Morocco's warning won't just be a footnote. It'll be the decision that defined the tournament.